At the start of the year, I made one of the biggest decisions for me and the channel. And that led to me making a pretty big mistake when it came to choosing the irons that I would be using. Let me explain. Oh no. So like thousands of golfers out there, I made the fatal mistake of picking a set of irons that, in all honesty, my game wasn't up to and my swing wasn't up to. And that has huge ramifications if you make this decision. So why did I pick these irons? Well, I think there's two reasons, and hopefully by the end of this video, I'm going to help you not make the same mistake I did. And the first reason that I think I did pick the irons is because they are one of the best looking things I've ever seen. I think for me, they're probably my favourite looking Mizuno iron that's ever been made. But that shouldn't be a reason that you pick irons when actually selecting your new set. Oh, that should be pretty good. It should be. Oh no, a little bit short. And that comes to the second reason, and it's delusion. Maybe a little bit of delusion as to how good or how confident we are in our own ability and our games. For me, I look at these irons and think that if you aren't finding the sweet spot 80% of the time, it's not worth using them. Oh, not my best strike. And that's the perfect example of the S3 there when I'm talking about forgiveness. I mentioned 80% of the time you should be finding that sweet spot to be using those irons. I've just hit 5-iron with 210 yards from a hazard down there. And it wasn't my best strike, but it wasn't my worst. It was okay. But I've pulled up about 30, maybe 40 yards shy there. So it just goes to show if you're not on your game with these, like I haven't been, you just don't get the most from them. But what ramifications did that actually have on my stats throughout the time that I use these irons? Let's take a look and see how bad they actually got. Well, as you can imagine, when it comes to the stats, it doesn't make for pretty reading. And one of the main stats that was concerning for me was how much I was coming up short of greens. 32% of greens I actually was hitting short, and that could be down to the fact that the irons have a little less forgiveness, so on the missed strikes they're not getting there. The lofts as well, they're a little bit more traditional to what we see nowadays, but 32% short, not good. I actually was only hitting 47% of greens, which is 19% down when we benchmark it against a tour player. Ideally, I would like to be in the 60s, edging up to mid to high 60s would be where I want to be on that stat. And then the other stat that I've started looking at more and more this year as we've been doing the My First Win series is the strokes gained. And with these irons, when I've been using them, I was actually losing 2.62 strokes throughout the rounds that I was playing. So I'm giving back essentially 3 shots just by using these irons. Ideally, you would like to see that all your strokes gained were positive. Generally not going to happen, but what I would want to see is that I'm not giving away 3 strokes, because for me, I would generally say from a sort of mid-iron perspective, I would always class myself as a pretty decent player with the mid-irons, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9 irons. And even with my 6-iron, we can see that actually the distance that I was hitting my 6-iron, even that was dropping. That was down to 180, again, because of those factors I mentioned about forgiveness and loft. So overall, those stats there, they were quite alarming. So that didn't make for very good reading there, but what have I actually changed to try and help me improve my stats? Well, the irons that I've gone to now are the new JPX 925 forged. And these irons here are something that, as I actually stated in a video at the start of the year, are probably the irons that I should be playing, and I wish I would have made that decision earlier and stuck to my original thoughts and not got sidetracked with that inflated ego or inflated vision of how good my game was and actually choosing on pure looks. Because from this club here, with it just having a slightly bigger profile, a slightly larger sole, also a little less loft on them, the benefits now are that I'm getting a little bit more distance, and I'm also getting a little bit more forgiveness with these irons. And even that shot there is very telling for me. It wasn't my best strike, but it's literally about 15 foot from the flag straight down, and it is just helping me improve and gain confidence as I'm actually working on my swing. Now, I have been doing some practice and I have been getting lessons, but has that coupled with a little bit more relief actually seen the stats improve? Let's just take a look and see where we're at now. Well, the great news is yes, and this is really for my benefit, just a great justification and a example or a told you so of actually making the swap here, because firstly, that 32% number that we saw I was missing short with, that's dropped down to 24% now, so an 8% drop. My actual greens hit in regulation, that's jumped up to 60%. When we look at the distance, that could be one factor for these improvements. With the 6-iron, that's gone up to 210 yards. That is total, and I have been teeing off with it in a few of the rounds, so there will be a little bit more distance there. But also, to caveat it, I have been putting some work in on my golf swing, trying to improve that and get more consistent with it. But I think when I've not been quite on the ball, the benefits that I've just listed about the irons, I'm seeing that they're backing me up a little bit now. So even when I'm not swinging it great and not finding the middle, I'm still getting a good dispersion. I'm still getting a good front to back gap in. I'm not seeing massive drop-offs and seeing that short number jump up there. I'm seeing that even that they are a little bit bigger, I've still got the workability with them, and we can see that the stats are showing that the green percentage has gone up. And the other great stat that is really sort of the big told you so is the strokes gained. These are the ones where I'm really focusing on this year. I want to be led by them to make smarter and better choices for my game. And currently, we know it was down at minus 2.63, as where now it's dropped to minus 1.1. So I've halved that stat there. So only dropping 1 shot versus 3 shot on my approaches is just a great justification as to why, when we should be maybe choosing 1 iron and we don't, that's a great justification to go for these irons. And that's a great example there of what I'm looking for from these new irons. 205 yards to the centre of the green. I've hit 5-iron right out of the bottom of the golf club, and it's pitched to the front of the green there. So even on the poorer shots, I'm actually getting something now that matches the strike consistency. It's doing a little bit more work for me, and that's what I need when I'm choosing my irons. But what has actually led to the improvement, and more importantly, what are the decisions that I made, the factors that help them improve? Because as I stated at the start of this video, I want to make sure that you don't make the mistake that I made. So we think that there are 3 factors that you need to factor in when actually choosing your iron set. Number 1 is playability. Have a look at your game and think, how much playability do you need from an iron? And when I talk about that, do you need maximum forgiveness, or are you looking at actually shaping the golf ball? Where do you sit on that scale? The other factor for me, even when I wasn't catching the S3s well, the distance. If I did hit them great, they'd maybe get up to where I wanted them to, but if I didn't, the distance dramatically dropped off. And then the third factor, which is actually where I based my original decision on, is the aesthetics. What do those irons look like? I put that as my main priority when choosing the S3 irons, because as I said, I think they're one of the best looking irons I've ever seen. And I actually discounted those other 2 factors that I've just mentioned, which when you're going on something on looks, didn't quite help the stats out as we saw, as we're making a decision on, yes, these not being my ideal look for an iron, but actually taking into the other 2 factors, we've now seen that the stats have rocketed and the game is actually improving. We do have a full iron selection video coming out, so make sure you're going to tune in for that one. Subscribe so you don't miss it. But please don't make the mistake that I made, because I put myself back by about 3 months just by sticking with something that looked totally beautiful. Guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Why not watch a video here to see how far you should actually be hitting your driver and whether it actually is the one for you.